Hey everyone, welcome back to Rationable. Today we've got a very special guest, the Indic Atheist. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about a lot of very interesting stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhijit. Thank you for having me on your platform. And I'm great that I'm able to find more rationalists, atheists, and skeptics in the Indian space.
Yeah, we definitely need our people around
given,
these days, don't we?
given how much Raita we have, the Raita wing and the left wing and all that.
What is Raita wing? I have no idea about that.
There is right wing and it rhymes with the word Raita. So Raita Felana is like those who represent the right wing in a very bad way. There is Raita and then there is Trads. Trads are the traditionalists, the proper casteist and superstitious people who vote for the Sang party. And then there's Raita wing. Raita is a word given by the Trads, I believe. I could be wrong, but Raitas are the one who do not want casteism to prevail, who do not want certain superstitions to represent Hinduism, but they still want Hindutva as a protective force, as a protective group.
Really?
Yes, yes.
So how does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it does. You have right-wingers who are probably atheists or not even atheists, just moderately religious, and they want to be represented. And then there are your traditional people who have been there since forever, I believe. And they feel that now their religion is being properly represented. The ideas of the religion, the rituals and the superstitions, and even the more dogmatic hierarchies and discriminatory practices that, yes, we will vote for BJP. So it's two factions which we have on the right wing, the Raitas and the Trads.
Okay.
What I just described, it is not exactly accurate, but it is somewhat very close to how these two groups function separately.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that perspective before. But one thing I would love to, if it was at all possible, shouldn't it be the raitas and the biryanis or something of that sort? We should have that.
Biryanis is something which they would find in the left, the ones who are eating freebies just to represent leftist ideas. The whole political discourse is all about tags and names and caricatures. We are too engrossed in this entertainment bit of political discourse that we actually fail to discuss actual issues and find common ground. I don't think there's going to be a common ground anytime soon. You just
probably not. I don't think there ever has been in any context in this country, at least. But listen, I wanted to start off with something else. I want to understand your story. Where did your rationalist, atheist perspectives, where did they come from? When did they start? What were you brought up? Were you brought up in a religious family?
Not exactly. I was, let's say, in a very moderately religious family. Both of my mom and dad's side, I come from a Sikh family. And yes, I am an ex-Sikh, but my atheism didn't spiral out of my disdain towards Sikhism. It was a disdain towards basically all religions. Because I'll start from the beginning. I do come from a military background. My dad has served for 30 years. So given that privilege, I have been to different places. I explored different cultures and all that. Right. And let's say that I've also been to Kashmir. I've also been to Northeast, where the insurgency takes a very different form based on an ideology and based on religion even. But meeting all these people all over India, I never eventually had any prejudice towards anybody. I can have some biases. I can have some preferences that I don't. And I can say it out loud, like Jad Buddhi. But that is just something they would also endorse, that, yeah, Jad Buddhi hu main. I'm a little angry. I'm an angry young man. And Baniya guys, they're pretty smart when it comes to business and they like flaunting it.
Yes.
Very calculated. To some level, we can all use these words without being prejudiced towards anybody. So in that sense, I have a very, I would say, liberal understanding of the Indian diaspora. Right. Being to Kashmir also, my family never imposed any ideas about radical Islam or all that. That is something you grow up and eventually do find out.
That we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Oh, we should.
Yeah.
We should. Early childhood, I couldn't even think of a concept like atheism. How can you not believe in God? Everybody believes in God. Everybody you talk to, your relatives, your friends, and all the adults. Like, it is so normalized that the lack of belief in God was very alien to me until class 10th, I believe. So we were all filling up some forms. I don't know if that form still asks for something like religion, but the first time we fill a form, so I am CBSE educated in CRT books and all that. So the first time we filled a form in class 10th regarding our board exams so we could issue an admit card. I think they asked about religion. I don't think it was mandatory. I think it was just for the school record or something because there is no religion mentioned in your 10th certificate. But the school still asked about our religion in particular. And there was this one of my classmates, a lady. I was sitting with my benchmate, and he just brought it out of nowhere that that girl, apparently, she does not follow a religion. Like, what do you mean? What does that even mean? Don't follow a religion. We are all born into a religion.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was made to write that I was a Hindu all in all the forms, and I was like, really? Is that what we are? And my parents were like, yes. Even though they're from a very reformist sect of Hinduism called the Brahmo Samaj. But
oh, really?
Yeah. So
you're a Brahmo.
I was.
Rabindranath Tagore, Satyajit Ray.
No, yeah, they were a part of the gang.
Yeah.
There's also this chap. The person who founded it was Raja Ram Mohan Roy.
Yeah, the reformist.
And
the British stooge, apparently. Yeah, the British stooge, Raja Ram Mohan Roy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny, like on odd day, there is a different opinion. On even day, there is different. So on odd day, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a British stooge who apparently targeted Indian culture. Like
apparently,
that's abolished sati. So he targeted Indian culture. That is what they say, Indian culture. But on even day, they'll tell you that where is sati? It was never there. It was never mandatory. Okay, then why are you angry with somebody who abolished it? On odd day and even day, it keeps changing. Their opinion, their defense, it keeps changing.
Yeah, exactly. But fortunately, I was also brought up in a very liberal thing, but I still had to write that I was a Hindu in all the forms that we had to fill out, all the way up till my last job when I was in the edry forms and very decidedly atheist. I was going to write none for religion. And the guy said, nahi, nahi, yaar, please, aise form wapas aa jayega. I said, okay, fine, I'll write Hindu. But ever since then, I've been trying to figure out what the hell to put into that bracket. Should I just say atheist in that bracket or what? Like it's because atheism isn't really a religion. That's something that, of course, we've all discussed quite a bit. But anyway, sorry, continue with your story.
No, so I'll get back to my story in a bit. So the categorization you're talking about, if there is to be a category, right, it should be religious would include atheists, agnostics, people who say, I'm not religious but spiritual. But that'll be a test that ultimately on a form, are you writing down your religion or are you actually writing down irreligious? You can believe in your God, your deistic God. You don't have to be theistic, you can be deistic, right? That I don't believe in a God which judges us based on what we eat, who we marry, where we fuck, and all that. But I do believe that there is a God who created everything and then he left everything on its own. There are people like that who believe in that sort of a God, right? So we can all be clubbed under an umbrella term called irreligious. Because I don't think I'm going to have a problem with an agnostic or somebody who says thank God but does not visit any religious place. I'm not going to go.
I do that a lot.
I think like I had that phase of being picky and nosy, but now I'm like, yeah, ultimately religion is the main problem because religion dictates some dogmatic practices, what you eat, what you do when you wake up, how many times do you pray, how you treat homosexuals, right?
Oh, yeah.
All that. So I don't think that has to do anything with people who simply believe in a non-religious God. Let them. Ultimately, I'll never agree with their philosophy, their concept, but it's not like we are going at each other's throats, right?
Yeah, exactly. And fortunately, India is very
I don't think
tolerant.
ultimately we do not have problem with religious people as well. My family is religious. They are totally okay with my atheism. So why do I hate these kind of religious people? My grandfathers, both from my maternal and paternal side, they were the last one to wear a turban. All of my uncle from my dad's side, my aunts from my dad's side, and my uncles from my mom's side, basically chachu, mamu, bua, taya, everybody. Nobody ever put on a turban as an adult. And by the time the third generation, like me and my cousins were born from both sides, nobody had that much of a connection with traditional Sikhism. We visited Gurdwaras, we celebrated all the festivals. We anyway celebrate most Hindu festivals as well, like Holi and Diwali. That's there. What we do not particularly got into is like Navratris and all other pujas and all that. That is something very much on the Hindu side. I believe Holi and Diwali has a more pan-dharmic appeal, and now it is even going global. Because what Christmas achieved was they took out Jesus and they put in Santa, and now everybody cares about Santa. They don't care about going to the church, which is what I would say the secularizing of festival. And Diwali can become that. People can just call it Festival of Lights. They can definitely Google or ask a Hindu about what is the light concept and all that. They can know about it. But yes, they can celebrate Diwali as much as any Indian would celebrate Christmas without having to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we've got Easter, which makes absolutely no sense because it's about Jesus's resurrection and
what do we do with
Easter
Easter?
Bunny.
Nobody cares about Easter in India.
Nobody cares about
South
Easter.
or Northeast, right?
Yeah.
Same with Halloween, and I never.
Halloween is just a fun trend now. It's like people just want to have Halloween parties because they want to dress up.
It's
some
free
weird
Comic
shit.
Con, man. It's free Comic Con.
Exactly. I
Dress
want to
up
say
as
free
whatever
all the
you
time. Yeah, it's Comic Con, all right.
It's Comic Con all the time. You can dress up as whatever you want. Like I've been told so many times to dress up as Agent 47, that from the Hitman games. Like shave my head. I'm like, come on, yeah, that's mean. But take it. That's the whole fun of it. Okay, coming back to the atheism story, the atheism journey. So
Yeah.
that woman, I actually got offended. I was such a brat and such devout towards beliefs that, like, how can you not believe in a God? What sort of arrogance can lead to having such beliefs and all that? Now, that is one part of my memory which reminds me that how small steps were taken towards atheism. I would also say that when I was in class third or fourth, there was this poster of Guru Nanak at our school. It was Army School Udhampur, right? That was not third and fourth, that was first and second. That was year 2001, 2001. So they had, in earlier classes, we had moral science as a subject. Right? And the point was that there were pictures of God everywhere. There are Hindu God, there are Sikh gods, there is Jesus. Of course, we cannot draw Muhammad and Allah. That is something that their religion doesn't allow. And henceforth, Islam, I would say, is still very, they have self-isolated themselves in some way. But I could easily see posters of Jesus, posters of Nanak, posters of Shiva and Ram and all that in school. They were not spread out in some propaganda way, but they were just there. And there were very universal quotes all under them. One of them had, God helps those who help themselves. I was like, really, yaar? Really? गांड फटे तो मेरी गलती लेकिन कुछ हो जाए अच्छा तो उसकी कृपा. How is that even making sense?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. Those who help themselves, so why do I need God then? I'm helping myself, and if I'm not helping myself, there is no divine intervention. But that thought did not linger and manifested into atheism all of a sudden. It is just something I had as a, I would say, 5, 6 year old. I was still a very devout believer. I have grown up, like most urban kids in India, I have grown up watching Western media, right? So in Western media, the most easy depictions, the most free depictions of God are, I think, of these Greek gods, right? There are so many movies, there are so many games around Hellenic mythology. I was actually interested in Greek mythology. For when it comes to Indian mythology, I think I had just seen one Ramayana, which is the Japanese version. Every Diwali on Cartoon Network, that is all the media exposure I had. I did not watch on any of those old serials. I've definitely seen clips here and there, right?
Yeah, I used to watch those on Sunday mornings, Ramayana and Mahabharata and everything on Doordarshan. I've grown up watching that stuff.
Basically, I was aware of both Indic mythology and Greek mythology, and I used to ask certain questions that when Prometheus did something very on a cosmic scale, he restored the earth to the center of the universe and all that. What were the Indian gods thinking at that time? The sun even belongs to an Indian god. The sun belongs to a Greek god. And if a world-changing event happens in that mythology, like this is a kid's perspective, right? I know it sounds a little dumb now.
No, of course.
Religion sounds dumb, ultimately, yes. So I was thinking, ki, yaar, really, if this can happen, what about the Indian gods? Wouldn't they be like that? What just happened to my son, right? If Hanuman went up and he swallowed the sun, whatever that story is, what was Helios thinking at that time, right? If Zeus's lightning bolts were stolen and suddenly the power of thunder is gone, what would Thor think? What would the Indian god Indra think? So this cannot coexist in the same dimensional plane, right? There has to be a contradiction. And then we have
Absolutely.
deities and then we have prophets. Like, then what about Jesus? Jesus came down from an invisible God. What was that God doing while these polytheistic mythical events were happening? So all of these very basic but stupid questions ultimately led to foregoing my stupidity for religion. I came this close in 2013 or 14 to getting a tattoo, Sikh tattoo on my left arm. I had gone abroad to visit my uncle. So he had a tattoo artist friend. And I was like, yo, that khanda with the lion, something you would see. So that khanda with the lion was something I wanted on my left arm. I was like that I'm going to get jacked up and this tattoo is going to be inflated. It's going to look big. I'm going to be a proud Sikh. But there was
Yeah.
nothing about Sikhism I was really doing. I never had a turban in the first place forever. I have a picture of me with a juda in the 90s, but that was during vacation. I think that's it. I never kept it permanently. None of my kindergarten or early elementary school classmates have seen me in that. It was something I had during a long vacation, just for a gimmick, right? Yeah, eventually I started contemplating all of these memories I had that I did question God at some point, but now I'm thinking all of them together. There are a lot of instances there where I question God, and I cannot put all of them together right now. It'll be too long. But yeah, I did start to question everything. And I did come to the realization that probably there is no God. Right now, I don't have to be having this opinion and push it on everyone's face, but I need to self-actualize and self-analyze this concept which I've had, which I've been ingrained since my childhood, right? All of those things did make me come to a conclusion that there is no God. That was the first step. Second step was fine. Now, since I do not believe in my God or any other God, because there are so many gods, so many religions, so many deities, so many prophets, I've forgone that first step. Second step is now that now, since I don't have the compulsion to respect others' beliefs, right? It was not disrespect in the first place. It was respect that, okay, you believe in a certain God, I respect it. You believe in a certain God, I respect it. Now I don't respect any of them because now I'm neutral towards them. That respect has to be earned. That is a one-sided communication. Who are we talking to in the first place? We talk
Yeah,
to
very
them.
true.
It's a one-sided communication. People go and pray and sit, cry, weep, beg. It started to repulse me, I would say, yes, at some
Mm.
point. But I took a neutral stance and like, okay, let these guys have their peace. They don't have anybody to talk to. Let them pray. Let them soothe their pain. Let them kill their time as this bad time will eventually vanish at some point. Let them go through, let them cope, whatever. But then I started to look at all the things religious people do, religion does, because now my horizon was beyond the comfort and the bubble of respecting religion or believing in religion. Now, as an adult, now I'm exposed to smartphones, exposed to the internet. All of it was timed very perfectly. We are millennials, 90s kids. Early 2000s, we didn't see much of religious bigotry. We were not told much about religious bigotry from our parents because had we been in a traditional household, yes, we would have had some great hate towards certain communities because that is what would have been ingrained in our households from an early age. But if our parents, what we say that we come from a liberal household, it is not just a magical word. It has everything to do with the way we were raised because they did not care about setting boundaries for us. They knew that we will figure out those boundaries. We'll set it ourselves, right? Now I can say that, yeah, Islam is the most dangerous religion, but my parents will know that I'm not going to go out and harass Muslims because they know how they've raised me, how well they've raised me, right? So in that sense, yes, it took some time for me to figure out how religion works, how it poisons people. And I would say mid 2010s is when I started having not just atheistic, but more anti-theistic views. I started looking at now 2000 mid 2010s we had ISIS peaking and now they have been, I would say, cornered and almost defeated. But yes, that is when I started seeing Islamic extremists from a different light. Right? Now, it was very different from the perspective I had as a kid when I was visiting my father in Kashmir. And early 2000s, it was at its peak, the militancy in Kashmir, right? So in the evening, if my dad has to go out for a walk, a gunman would go with him, right? I would go with my dad, but I never questioned that why is a gunman required when we are just going to civilian areas, meeting local Kashmiris, right? He just gave me one sentence that militants beta yahan pe bhi kabhi kabhi chupe hote hain. That's all he said. He never said anything against the people, right? Or even though he can have his prejudices, he can have his biases, he can have a worldview. But I don't think in the military it comes in the way of their duty. They still function as a very apolitical and a secularist organization. So he said, beta gunman chahiye hota hai, militants hote hain, right? For me, that time, there was no such thing as a Islamic militant. It was just militant, right? Militant, big beard, Kandhari kurta, and AK-47, right, and all that. And mostly just Bollywood films with those Arabic background music and all that. Inshallah, whatever dedication they have. Very, very comical, I would say. So that was my probably the first and only idea I had in my mind about what an extremist looks like. But I did not attach it to a religion, any religion, right? Like, take a militant. But when in 2015, I was contemplating that memory that, yeah, this was the first militant for me. Why was the first militant I saw from Islam, right? Why? But enough of Islam. Let's come to a local level. Let's talk about India and the Indic faiths, right? 2014 was a very crucial and a very moment-defining year for the Indian politics. We voted out a dynasty. We voted out, I would say, a kingdom of Gandhis. And we did it for promises very different to what we are seeing right now. We wanted a corruption-free India. Instead, what we got was Hindutva. We wanted some accountability, but now there is no accountability. There is hero worship of politicians, right?
Absolutely.
So it is something we can actually debate for hours and hours that what exactly happened in 2014. We all voted for BJP. I voted for BJP, right? And I voted for BJP. And I would also say that as an atheist, I supported BJP. I was done with my atheist journey. I was not radicalized by ideas of faith, but I was radicalized in a way that, yes, I have to be dependent on Hindus to protect me. Yes, that these were my views at some point. Till lockdown.
I see.
Uh, Till lockdown, I did not do any self-analysis because as a first-time voter, I voted for BJP. Usse pehle, I was not even 18. I was hardly interested in politics. But all those anti-corruption movements in 2012, 2013, that was the time when I was passing out. I was going to college. So yeah, young blood, interested in a new party. Had no idea who Modi was. I just knew he was a PM of Gujarat. I didn't even knew that he had something to do with I would not say something, a lot to do with the 2002 riots. But since the Supreme Court has already decided my fate, I don't want to be in a defamation charge.
Yeah.
So I'll choose my words carefully. Anyway, what happened in 2014? Where exactly did we go wrong? And I would say something like this was already being brewed. Just a minute, man. I'll just switch on my charger, right? Yeah, I would say as a first-time voter and the ideology which I had built up in my mind started with BJP. BJP came as a savior. It swooped in, victorious, and Narendra Modi established himself as a one-man figure. And we all liked him. And I would say 2014 to 2019 was not much of a bad tenure. We could still enjoy a lot of things on the internet. There was not much division. It was, I think, after the riots, the anti-CA riots, that is when the propaganda machines also started doing rounds each day, each night. And that is when the poison actually started to spread way, way more. So it was, I think, after the second term, I realized that this is not the party for me. This is not the party I voted for. And as an atheist, if somebody asks me, how could you vote for the BJP? I don't regret it. We all go through different changes. We all go through different phases. We all have to learn what is best for us, what is objectively good, and how we fit in that objective world. I don't think there is something objective still. It's very subjective. But yeah, there are certain things which we can all agree on an objective level that, yeah, certain things are bad. And having a right-wing, Hindu-centric government is very bad, right? Because that is something from an atheist perspective. I don't think I am going to call them out for their schemes and their other administrative initiatives which are actually good or which they have failed. I think in that case, we should criticize the opposition and the ruling party on a very similar basis, that this scheme failed. You promised these many incentives. Where are those incentives? that is a more, I would say, civilized discussion. But when it comes to identity politics, is something everybody does. We are a nation of very diverse identities based on caste, religion, ethnicity, right? Diversity, I would honestly say, has never been our strength. बोलने में अच्छा
For
लगता है
sure.
unity in diversity, bullshit, right? There is a gunda for every diversity. There is a caste-based gunda. There is
Yeah,
a, you
absolutely.
can see, language-based gunda, right?
Mm.
Mostly it is diagnostic towards North Indian Hindi speakers, which I somewhat understand. Like, I wouldn't want Hindi to have dominion over all languages. As an Indian, I love all the languages, even though I don't understand 99% of them. But I would want you to have your native language and communicate with me in English. Now, I'm not some Shashi Tharoor or Shakespearean guy, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, like, we all try at least that English could be. It's a very controversial opinion, which I'm about to say, that yes, English could be the mediator between different ethnic groups in India. It shouldn't be Hindi.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should,
Because even
because
in the
that is
South,
my language. Why would my language take precedent over others?
absolutely. There are a lot of people in the South, in
Hmm.
Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where they really look at Hindi and with great disdain, and even English to some extent. But at the same time,
Hmm.
English does end up being the language you communicate with. And but having been to Bangalore recently, I've
Hmm.
noticed that a lot of the cab drivers speak Hindi. They prefer Hindi over English. But in Tamil Nadu, I think it's a little bit different. But I haven't been there in a long time, so I can't speak to that. But there are gundas of every stripe. But from what you were saying earlier, I did see the whole when in 2014 I did see that fascism was going to become a priority. I even before the elections, I had told friends that I would rather have a corrupt government doing nothing than have a very progress-driven fascist government. Fine, there was a lot of controversy when it comes to that, and a lot of my friends disagreed with me. But the BJP did win, and we've seen a lot of progress. We've seen a lot of highways being built, a lot of the energy infrastructure improving quite significantly across the nation. There was an attempt at creating hygiene solutions in villages and things like that.
Swachh Bharat.
Yeah,
The
there was an
funny
attempt
thing
at
is
that, but
that Swachh Bharat actually made me a lot more responsible when it comes to civic sense. I was like, that if the prime minister can pick up garbage from the streets, which I know is like a gimmick in every other campaign he does. But yeah, now I don't have to think about that prime minister, but I did start taking very serious steps. I would say even radical steps. If we are having drinks at some random spot in the middle of nowhere, the moment somebody drops their beer can, it just makes me violent. And I do tend to use my size in that advantage. I'm 6 foot two, broadly built and all that. Just very humble of me to say all of that. But yeah, I do get in their faces, "Bhai, utha usko. Utha de, otherwise you will be picking up yourself." I do get very antagonistic in that regard because over the years, I have developed this habit ki, yaar, if I have some garbage, I can just store it in my bloody car in some polythene bag.
exactly. My
Home.
car's an absolute mess, but that means that the
In
outside.
case, yes, even my car does become a mess, but it is not the mess which I was supposed to throw out. It is just that my charger is lying somewhere, the
Yeah.
dust is lying somewhere. So that. But yeah,
So
you can just keep it in your car. Whenever you see a dustbin, just throw it there. In my society, it takes two different types of trash. There is green and there is blue. So green would have
uh,
gila kuda, that's what they say.
uh,
Recycled material, organic material. So if you have in boiled eggs, the shells will go there. If you're chopping vegetables, the skin goes there. If you didn't like a burger you had from McDonald's, just throw the entire burger inside that. That is what your gila kuda is. Then the suka kuda, the dry one, that is something they recycle. So this one was
yeah.
biodegradable. The other one is recyclable.
Mm,
That have packets, paper, plastic, everything. And I don't know where
yeah.
they treat it, how they treat it, but yeah, there is some sense of righteousness that, yeah, I live in a society like that. They treat garbage. Yay. And people from that same society, if they tend to throw garbage right outside, it just boils my fucking blood every time.
Yeah, we in my colony we still don't have garbage segregation. Fortunately, no other form of segregation either, but at least the garbage is being separated.
Oh man, see, I am gonna shift. I'm currently in Chandigarh Tri-City.
uh,
I'm shifting back to Delhi. I hope I do not end up in a society like you mentioned, where there is veg, non-veg, or Muslim guys are not allowed. Because ultimately, I am not a Muslim. I can stay there, but during some festivals, they will come and ask for chanda, and I'll say I don't believe in all this nonsense. Get lost.
Yeah.
Then I'll be singled out कि वो fourth floor में रहता है वो गंजा चश्मे वाला वो ऐसा लोग you know. So let's see. That is a major problem. I used to be in Dwarka before I shifted here, and there was an officer, retired officer from the Navy. He was a Muslim. His name Captain Khan. So captain in the Navy is equivalent to a colonel in the army, right? He had to go through a lot of societies to find a house just because he was a Muslim. It did not matter that he served the country. Like all these guys are like, oh, Fauji hona chahiye. They'll share posts about a Muslim martyr, be it in the army or the paramilitary forces.
Yeah.
And say, ये देखो ये मुल्ला तो अलग है. But ये भी अलग थे. He was also different. He was in the army. Still, you couldn't accommodate him. Couldn't give him a house on rent.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
So yeah, there is, when I say that there is discrimination, it's not a reaction to all the terrorism or the extremism which happens in the name of Islam. It's just prejudice that you've built up. Yeah, I'll get to that in a bit. Now, coming back to the political spectrum and my atheist journey and how they parallelly. So when people ask me that how, as an atheist, I was able to support a Hindutva government and even just say that, yeah, I'm grateful for Hindus, I still say that to some extent because let's be honest, we live in a country where secularism is definitely a challenge for some communities. Right? They're not able to uphold it. The other guys have to uphold it and make the case for secularism that yes, secularism works in India, but it works because of certain people, right? And there is hardly any Islamic country where you will find secularism. There was Turkey, but now after Erdogan, however you pronounce it, I think that is going to take a toss in a few years. When
Yeah.
when modern Turkey or Turkey was formed back in 1920s, 1930s after World War One, and the Khilafat movement, which was started from the aftermath of the Ottoman Empire breaking down, right? Khilafat
Hmm.
movement was calling for a caliphate all over the world, and third world Muslims were the most agreeable with such a movement that yes, we should have a universal Islamic nation, right? And that is Khilafat movement led to so many riots in India, Hindu-Muslim riots, right? Whereas on the other hand, Turkey took a more secular path. It has become a modern nation where people can go and there is no dress code for Turkish women. There are bloody porn stars here in Turkey from Turkey, right? That is
Really?
yeah. So that is how liberalized that society became over a span of a century. But now with their new leader, I think there is a high chance of them going backwards, right?
There's always a chance of that happening, especially in this day and age. For some reason, everybody seems to be going backwards.
There is a very good explanation for that because I would like to quote Sam Harris on this that if secular liberals do not build safe borders, fascists will.
Yeah, indeed.
That has the moment I heard it for the first time, it made all sense to me. Like that, yes, if we do not have the spine to have difficult conversations and identify extremism on an early stage, then somebody else is going to come and fill in that vacuum and do it for us in a much more irresponsible way.
Very
Tolerant
true.
people have to take the responsibility of having discussions, having measures, having identifiers to curb such problems. Otherwise, intolerant people will come and do it in a much more irresponsible way. That is a fact.
Absolutely. Very true.
Yeah, why I was a Modi supporter was for exactly this reason, right? That ठीक है, I am not believing in any religion. I don't believe in the idol worship or worshipping the invisible sky daddy. But at least the idol worshippers won't harass me, won't kill me. That is the view I had. Now I hear this view from apologists कि आप भी देगा eventually. मैं ज्यादा मुंह चलाऊंगा तो मार भी देगा, right? So that is a paradox. I'm more likely to get killed by an Islamist, right? I'm more likely to, anybody is more likely to killed by an Islamist, I would say. But to have Islam as a crutch to walk with your ideology is crippled, right? It needs Islam as one of the crutches to walk. What about Islam? But what about Islam? What aboutery is, I would say, right now patented by the Indian right wing. Right. They can't argue or can't even respond without bringing up something else. Nehru, Gandhi, and all that. It's very childish. It's very immature. It is, I would say, very boring. It does get boring. And you do feel a sense of superiority, I would say. I mean, the true Nazism is having more rationality than the others, that I am mentally superior. You
Yeah.
guys are imbeciles. But yeah, so this is the case, right? They have been using Islam as a crutch, but they have failed to take any accountability so far. And that is just not with the keyboard warriors, but even with very well qualified intellectuals, right? This is my first time on the internet, but I'm not ashamed of saying names. People like Jay Sai Deepak, people like Dr. Anand Ranganathan.
Yeah.
Look at their debates. I have made one video on Jay Sai Deepak, one on Anand Ranganathan, and I think I was able to dissect them perfectly, right? If it comes to having a debate, I won't shy away from a debate. I know it'll be very difficult to counter them, but yeah, ultimately what they do is they shout. Anand Ranganathan definitely shouts. He's more about the spectacle. I can
Mhm.
respect greatly. I can
But what
respect.
about Jai Sai Deepak? What is it that you noticed about him?
Jay Sai Deepak is a classic case of an apologist. Right? He is what most people would say is that he's the Indian Ben Shapiro, but I think Ben Shapiro is still very dumb. This guy is very smart, given that he has very sharp arguments. But
That's true.
you need to have a sharper argument to if you want to counter it. I've made one short form content where he is talking about atheism and how atheists are the ones who are very detached from their culture. That is not the case, right? If
Absolutely not.
like there are so many liberal households which still have liberal-minded religious people, right? They are not going to turn to atheism. If I preach atheism to them, they'll be a little offended by what's wrong with my religion. That is because the version of religion they follow is not harmful to anybody, right? And they're perfectly fine with having that moral disposition. But my religion is
Mm.
fine. In truth, they, as human beings with humanist values, their humanist values surpass their religious values. That is why they're fine. And I don't have to correct them on that. We know that there is no such thing as a good religious person. There is a good person who just happens to have a religion because a religion is one part of your identity. You have a lot of things. Whatever you do as a job, your hobbies, your religion, it's a big soup of different elements that make you, right? Religion
Very true.
cannot, the primary, let's say, identifier of who you are. I'm a proud Hindu, I'm a proud Muslim. I just cringe when I see such things on the fucking Instagram bio or any bio for that matter. Like, out of all things you could post on social media, this is the one you want to have precedence. Like, same with thirst traps. Like, out of all the things you could post your vacation pictures, you're posting your titties flashing in the face. So, yeah, I can have certain disdain towards that. Same way, if you're out of all things, you're posting your religion, like, this is what you're obsessed with.
Absolutely.
Really?
It becomes a part of a person's identity
Yeah,
after
too
all.
much, too much. That is all the personality they have.
And that's one
And
thing that I find is that is problematic with the atheist idea of challenging an idea and not necessarily challenging the person themselves. But it becomes, they are so interlinked, they're so intertwined with most people that it's impossible to actually challenge an idea without challenging that person, or basically arguing against an idea or insulting an idea without actually insulting that person. So you can't, like, for example, a lot of people say, I can call ideas stupid, but I'm not calling you stupid. But a lot of the time, people have their own identities wrapped around their ideas. And if you hurt their ideas, if you hurt their belief systems, then they get hurt as well. And there's no way to avoid that. So I try to be as respectful as I possibly can be, even to their ideas. And because I know that they're both very tightly wrapped together.
now I do understand that respect is something we should give everybody for their beliefs. But when it comes to religion, now, this respect is the only tool they have to totally discourage the discussion altogether.
Yeah.
I can be disrespectful towards people who watch Friends. I don't like that show at all. I can be disrespectful towards people who follow a certain sport like cricket. I don't know the appeal to cricket, but India is a cricket hub, right? We have the biggest cricket league. We mint a lot of money. It is so emotional for so many people. I get that. I can respect that. But I can also disrespect that and not be killed. When it comes
Absolutely.
to religion, I can disrespect friends and not be killed. I can disrespect cricket and not be killed. And eventually, after a heated argument, next day, nobody is going to call me cricket hater, blasphemous person, and all that. When it comes to religion, why do we have to have the same, let's say, moral compass or a set of manners? It is not good manners to talk about somebody's religion. Why? Why does something which is not even tangible. Cricket is tangible, man. I can hold a bat, right? I can play the sport. I can buy a ticket to go and watch it. But when it comes to religion, that same religious person will pick up that bat and beat my head with it. Why?
Very true. But
For what? For what exactly? Gods you haven't seen, gods who don't respond to you, gods who created religious rules and discriminatory practices against women, against people of different beliefs, different faith, right? So how can something like that have so much importance in the public space? It is right now the most controversial thing. You want to talk about religion, don't talk about religion. Why have we put ourselves in that position? And how you can say that, yo, it is so disrespectful. Of course, it has to be disrespectful. Your entire worldview, the public policy, the education system, and everything is based around religious practices or some level of it. Do not disrespect
yeah,
people. Do not do this. Do not do that. Why? There are
I
so
think,
many laws to protect people's fairy tales, whereas person who criticizes those fairy tales can be booked under blasphemy laws. That is a case with third world countries mostly. US, UK, pretty good in that regard, very good. In fact, they are the
yeah,
pioneers of free speech in some regard.
oh, to a
Uh,
great extent, yeah.
Most of the atheists we were inspired by, you and me, like Dawkins. Hitchens is my favorite. Like I have
Oh, yes,
all
absolutely.
the books over there. He is my favorite. That is, I would say, also the kind of template I would like to follow.
Mm.
He's very quick-witted. I am not. I do have to think about my response, but yeah, I'll get there.
Yeah, we're not all that well skilled with
Yeah,
those kinds of things.
yeah. Eventually, it's all about practice. So of course, I can write a very witty script for a video which I have to rehearse and record. Most of my videos are like that. They do tend to be on the offensive line, and I'm okay with it. Right.
Mm.
When it comes to a live debate, I would probably think two or three times before having an insult at the tip of my tongue. But definitely, insult will eventually come out because the religious person is going to be so repulsive. You see, though, oh, this and that's, Farana, Namkana, laser eyes, and all that. But कोई किसी से live बात करोगे ना, you'll try to be as respectful as possible because now you're dealing with a person, not an idea. A person will mold the idea in a certain way, and you have to mold your conversation accordingly. But वो
Absolutely.
eventually इतना चुतियापा करेगा कि you will end up abusing that person.
Mm.
Beliefs, right? Religious people will repulse you, right?
Not me, but the thing is, I do understand your perspective. There is, I especially have seen some debates between, oh goodness, I can't even, there's this guy called Daniel something or the other. He's a Muslim apologist who debated Matt Dillahunty. And there's another guy called Subur Ahmed, I don't remember exactly, who debated Professor Dave
Right.
recently.
Have you seen
And
Dawkins versus Mehdi Hasan? That is the funniest, man.
oh, that one I haven't seen. No,
Oh my God.
that should be fun.
He literally asked that why did Muhammad go up there? Why up there? Why not?
Oh, he said, you actually believe that
That Muhammad went up there on a winged horse.
on the
On a
winged horse?
horse.
And he
It
said,
was so
yes.
funny.
He's like, you really believe that?
That was so freaking funny, man.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that is, if you ask religious people exactly these kind of questions, which renders their religion in the most literal sense, right? That you
Mhm.
actually believe that Ram crossed over the ocean to an island on rocks with his name written on them, fighting a 10-headed demon. You actually believe that? You actually believe that? It's going to be very offensive. Same way with Muhammad. He went to the moon. He split the moon, right? We do know Muhammad was there. He was a warlord. He was a illiterate merchant warlord.
Mhm.
And that is when historiography was pretty much there. Like we could record things in hundreds of languages, hundreds of scripts. And
Mhm.
somehow we have people who came before Muhammad who were not mythicized. We have people who came during Muhammad who were not mythicized. We have people who came after Muhammad and they were not mythicized. Just because Muhammad started a religion, you had to add an extra interpolation and a fable that yes, went on a winged horse. That is what religion does. For 2000, 2500, or let's say even 3000 years, we are able to record history on an empirical basis. But somehow every time a religious person has come in between the last 2000, 3000, 4000 years since we have writing, they still get mythicized. So that just tells you everything about religion. 500-year-old religion, Sikhism, even that has some certain things which are like totally nonsense. There is a there's a Gurdwara in Ladakh, a very
Mhm.
famous one, there, which
Yeah.
has, let's say, the story goes like that Nanak was meditating at a mountaintop, always at a mountaintop with the sages and all that, always.
Yeah.
Or a mountaintop or somewhere at the mountain. And some asur, some monster, some demon pushed a rock. They pushed a rock towards him, and instead, the rock did not crush him, did not roll over him, making him into paste. Instead, the rock stopped exactly where it touched Nanak. When Nanak's skin touched the rock surface, it started to melt. And that entire shape of his body, the silhouette is there on the rock. And that rock is over there in Ladakh. And I've been to Ladakh in 2000 and in 2014. I've been to that Gurdwara 2 times. And I was like, yeah, even 500-year-old stories about religion have such things. It could just be a carving, right?
It could be a carving. It could even be a natural feature, which we just interpret through pareidolia to make it look
like a cloud
something,
shaped like
a
a
human
favorite
form.
person, right? Yeah, it's exactly like that. But yeah, even 500-year-old religion, when we had 500 years ago, the European powers were looking towards India to invade them. Dutch, French, British, Spanish, everybody. That it was the age of exploration and age of enlightenment in Europe. Uस time pe we have myths like these.
Absolutely.
And
I have to say, though, I'm a little embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, the current Hindu ancient science, ancient technology rhetoric that we've been hearing for the last
Pushpak
few
Viman.
years. Huh?
Pushpak Viman.
Exactly.
That is the first step. If you heard of Pushpak Viman, then it's a rabbit hole from there.
Yeah, but I used to believe that sort of stuff when I was a kid. And I
That's
believed
okay.
that into adulthood, thinking that it was a possibility because I've always been a science fiction fan. I've always thought that, like, maybe we've had ancient aliens, maybe we've had ancient technology, all those Mahabharata things with the arrows going, touching each other, and then all of a sudden, those would be missiles, and we've been flying around in planes and stuff like that for ages. And then somehow we lost all the technology. But then that is something that is an illusion, or that belief melted away only when I was around 30 years old, when I was writing my dissertation for my writing course, and I was researching a science fiction novel on how to write one, and I discovered that all of it was absolute nonsense. And I was like, wait a second. So when these politicians are spouting that kind of stuff, I don't think of them as complete idiots, because I think that they genuinely believe that sort of stuff, because so many people do. And especially even people who are just talking about ancient aliens helping to build the pyramids, there's a natural logical progression when it comes to things, connecting things like that to connecting ancient technology and things like that. But fortunately, I've grown out of that. That's definitely a big relief. Did you ever believe that sort of thing?
I was a big fan of ancient aliens at one point, but I still considered it a conspiracy which cannot be proven. I wish it was true, because
Oh yeah, so do I.
I wish it was true. But that tells you that this problem about pseudoscience is not just an Indian problem. It is definitely an Indian problem if we measure the scale and compare the scale, yes. But as a concept, I think it exists everywhere. Egyptians built one of the most important monuments, like the 3 pyramids of Giza, and their civilization is gone. And whatever they have to promote about that civilization, it is being done by the West, because they're fascinated by those 3 samosas in the middle of the desert. So
Yeah.
even the people in the West, with all their technology and all their emancipation and all their first world education, do believe that it is some alien miracle, because they do not believe in God that much in the West. They don't want to believe with God, but no, aliens for sure. Aliens. You've seen that meme, aliens, right? So
It wasn't aliens, but I'm not saying it
aliens,
was aliens,
aliens.
but
Yeah, it
aliens.
is aliens, right?
Get my hair up and crazy.
I can't do that. Yeah. Aliens for the West, gods for the East, right? It's a universal problem, because I don't know what's wrong with accepting the fact that our ancestors were good, in fact, brilliant.
Absolutely. They're just as intelligent as any modern
Right.
human. It's not because they were older,
Right.
they were stupid. But then that's
Right
the problem
now,
with Ayurveda, because they
yeah,
think
right
that the
now,
people in the
our
past were smarter than
brilliance,
they are right now.
yeah, right now, brilliance is in building machines which makes these tasks easier. If I want to build a
Exactly.
pyramid today, I can do it in a year. They took, I don't know how many years it took to build a pyramid. Probably if Taj Mahal can take 20 years, I'm pretty sure pyramids took more than that.
Oh, yes.
Right now, our brilliance is in creating technology. And if, even for, let's say, the future generations, we will be very much impressive. Like, for example, if we look in the last 100 years, we invented a plane in the 1910s and went to space in just 70 years. Now, those are another great examples of our ancestral brilliance, right? Like in the
Yeah.
70 years, in the ancestors in the last 1 century, they went from the first flight to going to space in less like 70 years, man. So that is also impressive. So how can building stones, something out of stone and rocks, and pushing those stones on a sand and having slave labor with who were whipped their asses there and all that
Yeah.
could be possible. Slavery gets shit done, you know. So
Oh, that I'm
yeah,
definitely making a shot of that and putting that up on
slowly
YouTube.
gets shit done. You know, you whip. Now there are a lot of theories that who were the slaves. Some say it was the first iteration of Jewish people when they were pagans, though the pagan Jews built it. Some black people believe that it is the black people who did it. That black peoples were Egyptians. That is also what they believe in Africa. We was Kangs is a meme because of that. So there are a lot of iterations, but yeah, if our ancestors can build that, then yes, our ancestors can also go to space in modern times. Our same species has just cloned a dire wolf, which is, I know, just a headline. The actual nuance of that is that they have just done some gene altercation with a wolf, and it's
Yeah,
not
I heard
exactly
about that.
dire. But yeah, we can do impressive things. We could do impressive things 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. At that time, it was mostly sticks and stones. Right now, we have machines for it.
Absolutely.
Right?
Every progression is essentially a new way of making things easier to do. Every
Right.
technological leap and it's all incremental, and it's all been tracked like
Mhm.
10,000 years back. These ancient aliens, ancient apocalypse, all of these things have absolutely no bearing, because we know quite clearly the root of history and how technology and human ingenuity has remained the same, but technology has grown in a very slow, incremental pace. One could argue up till the revolution, but
Yeah,
it's just had.
last few centuries were like I would say fast tracking our progress. Like we just
Yeah.
went like this in the last 4 or 5 centuries. We went like this.
Oh, absolutely. Not even 4 5 centuries. I would say the last 2 centuries have been absolutely crucial in the development of science, and especially and medical science in particular has been 1 century basically.
No, I would say like telescope and the microscope came way
Oh,
before
yes.
electricity. There was
Yeah.
some mechanical development after the Age of Enlightenment. Age of Enlightenment is highly credited for the modern science we have
Yeah.
because
And a lot of that was
ultimately,
based in the Middle East. A lot of the scientific developments, the meeting of minds, the wisest people, and the greatest technological and scientific developments happened in the Middle East in the early, what is it, around the 500 AD
no,
onwards,
no, it's called the Golden Age of Islam.
and the Golden Age,
I have
yes.
notes for it. I have notes for it. I am not the kind of person who can remember a lot of things, but I definitely have some notes for it. They are somewhere in my phone. But yeah, it is also very debatable because they say algebra was invented in Middle East, right? That is, but it is mostly what it is that they took a numeric system from India. They just added a few things in Middle East, and algebra, the name came after Europeans took it from Middle East.
Ah,
Europeans took it from Middle East. The Middle East took it from India. That is also very debatable. I just don't want to say this with a very concrete, pretending as if that I have concrete evidence for it,
mm.
because I don't want to add more fuel to the Hindu-centric version of history. But yes, there are certain things which are true from a Hindu perspective or an Indian civilizational perspective. But you have to debate, you have to check the sources, right?
Absolutely.
But I would still credit the European age of enlightenment for most of the modern developments. And people would say that I'm appropriating Christianity. No, the age of enlightenment went against Christianity in the first place, right? And
Absolutely.
there is nothing Christian about modern developments. I would definitely say that modern scientists can be racist in the West, white. They like to talk about eugenics even today. They would
Oh, boy.
discourage people from other races to be scientists, but it has nothing to do with their faith, I would say. It is more to do with their skin. Right. Europe has always been about the skin, not their religion. They have forgone their religion. Even if you take into account the conversions which happened under the missionaries from Europe,
Yeah.
eventually Europe right now is a very secularist society, and they're too secular. They're suffering. Look at the immigration and the refugee crisis over there.
Oh, my.
or Sharia and all that. It's dangerous. Anyway.
Hey, so when did you start your Instagram and YouTube channels?
I just started this last year.
Oh, just last year. Okay.
Yeah, not even that frequent. The last video I made was in November. It was on Khalistan. And after that, I've just hidden those videos and uploaded it as short form content because they were vertical and they were less than 3 minutes. So I've uploaded them as shorts.
Nice.
But I didn't get much views in shorts. In fact, the comments, the abusive comments was much more spicier when I uploaded them in regular videos. I responded to them accordingly. I do not shy away from stooping down to their level because, come on, man, the best way, if you say that do not listen to trolls is not respond to them all. But if you're going to respond to them, are you still going to be righteous and all that? Why waste your time? You're going to still take 5 minutes or 4 minutes to write a very well drafted sentence. Oh, you shouldn't be like this. Shame on you. Fuck off. If you're going to engage with them, why waste your energy? Cussing them is way more effortless. Fuck you. Fuck your beliefs. You gobar eater. What's wrong with that? You're supposed to have fun with this. You can't. Otherwise, if you get too caught up with these comments and they're very deranged.
Yeah, some of them really are.
Joking aside, they're very deranged and you can't let them get into your head. You need to have a more fucked up head.
Yeah, so I try and avoid if it's just an inflammatory comment, I just leave it there. I don't even respond to it. If it's a civilized question or criticism, then I approach it. And then instead of actually stating my beliefs straight up, I try to question theirs and ask them logical questions. For example, I saw a video recently where somebody said that when you eat meat, that is what causes heart attacks because of the karmic response that you have, the karmic response that everything happens. So I was like, so how come vegetarians have heart attacks? That's the only comment I posted in the comment section. And I still don't have a response to that. I'm waiting.
No, that's still a very polite approach.
Precisely. So I always believed in a polite approach. And that's why I established Rationable, because I saw there was a lot of this online argumentation and a lot of toxicity happening online. So I created Rationable as a way to have civilized conversations about things. But I understand that voices like yours, which are much more firebrand, are very important. I interviewed Professor Dave. He doesn't pull any punches. He's full on with the insults and the name calling and stuff like that. And that works for him because that's just the way he is as a human being. That's just his tone of voice. Because I met him and he's don't fuck around with me, man. But
I do resonate with that because I'm a loudmouth, I would say, in real life as well. Somehow it's very
proper
difficult.
Punjabi.
Oh, it's just more Punjabi. I've grown up in Delhi, so more to do with Delhi.
It's actually a Delhi thing more, actually, yeah.
मैं जाटों के कॉलेज में रहा हूँ and that is the first time I felt yeah, they are very nice people and having some level of personality similar to theirs you'll definitely be heard. It's up to them that they take this or not. But yeah, you can be loud and you will be heard.
Yeah.
If you ignore somebody, you can only ignore them after you hear them. That means you definitely heard them. So yeah, I'd like to be heard. वैसे I'm not much of a talkative person. I avoid conversations and social gatherings unless I'm very familiar with people, right? But if थोड़ा सा मेरे को pump आ जाता है, then it's like I won't let the other person speak. Hey bro, listen, करके. I've had those two switches. Either I'm totally silent or verbally very violent.
Oh.
And the fact that he said that it is a personality, it's not a fake personality for the camera. That is true. You cannot fake this.
Absolutely, you can't.
Fake a lot of things. But I believe I cannot fake this.
Absolutely. I can't be a more aggressive speaker. I just can't be as firebrand as say you or Professor Dave or Matt Dillahunty or anything. Matt Dillahunty is like next level. But I can't be like that.
Matt Dillahunty still seems very polite to me, man. Like he's a sweetheart.
Really? I've been watching his videos obsessively for the last several months.
I think I need to watch more of his videos. I can't judge him based on one or two videos I've seen him. I've mostly seen his views and his quotes and his tweets and his ideas. I think the only time I've seen him debate, I think is with Jordan B. Peterson.
Oh, that was brilliant. And he was very civilized with
1 or 2 year old video, right? I think.
Yeah. And he was very civilized in that conversation. It was very civil. And he challenged ideas. And my God, I don't think Jordan Peterson is ever going to be talking with Matt Dillahunty again, because Matt Dillahunty
He
was
shouldn't be
like,
talking to anyone.
so you think you eat mushrooms and have an actual spiritual experience? Is that what you're saying? Yes. And then I think Jordan Peterson also said that getting high on mushrooms can also help, can not only give you a spiritual experience, but once you have that spiritual experience, you can actually quit smoking and quit drinking because of the spiritual experience. And I was like, wow, where is this guy coming from? That is just completely out of left field. I couldn't understand it at all. And Matt Dillahunty totally called him out on it and made him sit down and say, bhai, ye nahi chalega. And Jordan Peterson was at a complete loss. He had no idea what to say.
Yeah,
But I've seen his conversations with Sam Harris.
Word salads. He's
Yeah,
a
it's
word
a
salad expert,
complete
right?
word salad.
I have been a smoker for 13 years. I quit cold turkey, right?
Nice.
So it had nothing to do with the spiritual awakening. It can be for some. He's probably talking about one of his friends who told him a story. And yeah, he had an awakening and he let go of some bad habits. It is so anecdotal, it can't be even a statistic.
Absolutely. Right? And he says, and that is called, that's something like what you would call evidence. I'm totally butchering the quote, paraphrasing. But anyway, Matt Dillahunty totally demolished him in that one. But Sam Harris has had multiple conversations with Jordan Peterson. I don't know why, but they have had many conversations. And I've listened to most of them over a long period of time, because after about half an hour of that, my brain starts going all haywire. And I'm like, okay, I need a break. I can't do it anymore.
The thing is that these people, most newbie atheists, just listen to them and they're having a rush of emotions. Oh, he's so right. But they need to listen to them way more. They need to, I would say, even template those kind of arguments.
Absolutely.
There is a very interesting video I saw of Sam Harris who was talking about miracles. Like a few minutes ago, we were talking about how we have been able to record history, but whenever there has been a religious movement, there are fables added to it. Like I said, 1300, 1400 years ago, we had kings and generals, and then we had Muhammad, whose fables were going to the moon and all that. While other kings are about how many castles they did seize and all that, how many horses they had, what was their strategy, what was their covenants. But when it comes to Muhammad, who was born at the same time while these medieval kings were there, we are talking about his trip to the moon. Amazing. And then 500 years ago, we have had Mughal history, Rajput Mughal history. And then we've had this sage, the Sikh sage, who apparently melted a rock thrown at him. There is another story of him. He asked two people to bring, I think, a fulka from their house. He just wanted to test which one of them is a more moral character, right? So there is a peasant. He brings a roti. He keeps it in one hand. Then there is a businessman, cruddy capitalist person, right? He holds that roti in another hand. Now, those rotis are made in their respective households, right? So the story goes like that Nanak crushes this roti and milk pours down from that roti. And the other one, when he crushes the other roti, there is blood. So he's saying, okay, this one has been made from an honest man, and this roti has come from a household which strives on the blood and sweat of others by exploiting others. I was like, यहाँ पे you're recording Mughal history and their administration and Rajputana kings and their battle tactics and all the middle Indian medieval religious movements, political movements, and on the other hand, you're adding fables even at that time, right? Forget that was way before cameras. We have had cameras for the past, let's say, 150 years. Then we have Sai Baba, who was doing miracles. Even he
yes,
has
absolutely.
Uska photo tak hai. There is a picture of him, but still somehow he has done miracles. And Sam Harris said this example of Jesus versus Satya Sai Baba, not the Pichla wala Sai Baba.
The Afro one, the Afro one.
Not the Afro one. So he's like that. Doesn't take much to believe in miracles. Even in today's time, we have Satya Sai Baba conjuring gold out of nowhere.
So to speak.
And there are videos of him that it's right under his sleeve. People would still believe him. We have video evidence of him doing all of these tricks. It's just illusion, right? Every magician, street magician does it. He's just David Blaine with a spiritual flavor.
And not even as good as David Blaine. This guy is just a very cheap magician. In fact, I was at an atheist conference in Pune, where
India? I would like to be there.
Oh,
I'd like
absolutely. Next time it's
I'd
happening, I'll
like to
let you know.
endanger everybody with my views.
No,
Like have
it's a
camp.
fantastic place to be. Only problem is a lot of it is spoken in Marathi, but a lot of the talks. But the good thing is,
There is a thing in Maharashtra. There is a lot of rationalist movements in Maharashtra, thanks to Ambedkar and I would even say Dabolkar, right?
oh yes, absolutely. There is a huge movement there.
It is. Yeah,
And
continue.
Narendra Nayak was the keynote speaker at that meeting.
Right.
And I think last year it was the poet, what's his name? Javed Akhtar. So Javed Akhtar was the keynote speaker last year, and Narendra Nayak was the year before that, or the year before that. I don't remember. I think 2022 it was. And Narendra Nayak did on stage, he showed how you can put on a false thumb with a gold chain inside. And he can say that, look, my hands are completely empty. And then he takes off the thumb within his palm and then he pours out, he puts out the gold chain, just falls into his other hand. And he says, this is as simple as it can get. This is one of the lamest, like magical tricks that you can possibly have. And I can do it in front of you without any effort whatsoever. And if you see Satya Sai Baba doing it, and I've exposed him. I exposed him on TV. They've shown video evidence of him doing it. I have done it immediately afterwards, and I've shown everybody how it's done. And yet he still has such a massive following. And of course, all the ash pills that he used to palm and then put ash into people's hands. Like it's
gross.
It's really, and when you're talking about gross, the grossest thing was the thing about the golden egg coming out of his mouth. Have you seen that one?
I would want to see that
It
one.
is hilarious.
I
I'll
want
try
to
and
see it. I want to learn it. I want to perform it.
yeah. So you
Because
actually
if you can do it with an afro, I'm pretty sure you can do it with a buzz cut. Right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because he keeps the golden egg in a towel in his hand, and then he brings the towel to his mouth. He puts the golden egg into his mouth.
I've seen him.
Then he pops it out of his
I've
mouth,
seen
and
that.
he's
I've
like,
seen
"Oh,
that.
look, there's a golden egg." And not with that accent.
It would have been way more impressive had it come out from
Of somewhere else. Yeah, I know.
You know.
That would have been much more.
There are people who can smuggle drugs with drugs shoved up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That would have been fun.
It's just very exciting to look at news articles whenever somebody gets busted at Indira Gandhi or Chhatrapati Shivaji Airport.
Yes,
Shoved
the
up
goose.
Like 2 inches, 3 inches deep, man. Like, holy shit. Pills, ecstasy, cocaine, everything. Like, man, wherever you were smuggling them to, I hope it was totally sealed, man. Like, otherwise,
I know.
after the first snort, somebody is going to smell something else.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
very,
but
very graphic.
coming back to what we were talking about.
Yeah. So if drug dealers can do that, I believe spiritual babas with their powers, like I think they can hold an egg, right?
Oh, yes.
I've held shits bigger than that, man.
For sure.
I've ever had burritos and tacos and basically worst dietary choices. You can do shit.
Or something with a lot of fiber. Like, for example, you know what I call people like Satya Sai Baba and other hoaxsters and scammers like that. I call them the unflushables.
Turds.
Exactly. Right. You need one of the turd breakers to help get it down, and it still doesn't go.
Right. They are a bucket of water.
And things like homeopathy, though that homeopathy is also one of the unflushables. It just won't go away.
Okay, we'll get to homeopathy and yoga in a bit because I have a very anecdotal experience. I'm not saying that I believe in it. I still don't. But my mother had a condition called multiple sclerosis. It's a neuro condition. And because of that, we had to shift to Delhi because my dad being an officer, we did have the privilege of some great healthcare sponsored by the taxpayers and all that. But that injection, which was particularly required to cure her condition, was a weekly injection. Every Monday, she had to get that injection administered. And that was not available in remote areas. We were in Dalhousie, Himachal. It was not available there. Doctors suggested Delhi. We had to shift in Delhi. That is how I've been a Delhiite for more than a decade. But at the same time, she was also watching Astha channel. She used to watch yoga every morning. And what doctors told her that her condition can only be contained. It cannot be cured.
Yeah.
It was a 2-year course, 2 years every week. So 52 into 204 weeks, there will be injections. And after that, we can see some improvement. She used to do yoga every day for at least an hour. She used to do the breathing exercise, the pranayam.
Yeah.
And after 2 years, the doctors, when the course was over, when her treatment was over, she was multiple sclerosis had zero trace left inside her body. Zero.
Oh, wow.
And I'm grateful that doctors did their best. And I'm not sure whether yoga was a great contributor to that, because I can't totally dismiss the possibility, but also cannot accept it in a way that totally gives credit to yoga. Now, could it be that her immune system responded very well to that medicine? It can be that. And just because she coincidentally also did yoga, I am trying to link yoga with a treatment. It could be a lot of things, right? So
Oh, it
I've
could
never
be,
reached
yeah.
a conclusion in that regard. I would just say that she's fine and I'm happy. I'm happy for her.
And that makes you a good skeptic.
Yeah, to an extent. But she also thought that I have myopia, hypermetropia, like
Yeah, yeah.
presbyopia, whatever it is. I forgot the exact term. Like
Mm.
the number I have is negative, so I think it's myopia.
Yeah.
I should know it. I'm very shameful. I don't know it at the tip of my tongue.
Even I've forgotten it. I learned it, what, in
Yeah.
class 5, class 6.
Yeah.
I still don't remember it.
So I'm also colorblind, and I also have a condition called nystagmus. I can't focus on fast-moving objects, so it is very difficult. It has always been very difficult for me to play sports which have a ball in my direction. Where did it go? Somehow
Oh.
I'm still able to manage that in combat sports because boxing is a little more intimate. I do get punched a lot. My reaction time is slow but yeah, I can take punches, whatever.
Should do
It will
Tai Chi.
definitely help me if I get surrounded by a mob. I'll see what I can do. How many people I take down with me. One, two, third person will definitely kill me. Definitely. I'm being realistic.
Yeah, that happens.
That'll happen eventually. So anyway, so he insisted that I should definitely try out these breathing exercises because those breathing exercises definitely helped her. That is what she believes, right? I
Yeah.
did try to get into it, but then I became a smoker. I was like, there was no point now. I'm a smoker. So whatever oxygen I was getting with opening one nostril, releasing it with the other, it's gone. I'm neutralizing it. So I never got into it much. Eventually, she also stopped doing yoga, the breathing exercises, and she's now just doing it for her flexibility and all that. So yoga's
Wonderful.
influence in this family, it was like it did not go out in a negative way. It just was forgotten. Like over time, we became more liberal. We became less religious because I remember there used to be one mandir in my household. Now every 2 3 years, Dad will have a posting that mandir will come with us, of course, with the rest of our stuff. That mandir used to have a Gita, a Guru Granth Sahib. It used to have a picture of the two gurus, the first and the last guru in Sikhism, Nanak and Gobind Singh. It used to have a Shivling and even a small Ganesha, a very cute one. And over time, that mandir stopped getting any attention. Right now, there is no mandir. There's everything else in this house, but there is no mandir.
Uh,
This is a civilian house. My dad retired 5 6 years back. Now we do not have a mandir anymore. We do not even have agarbattis, incense sticks. We do not have those anymore. Right. Whatever relationship my family had with religion is only something they celebrate during festivals. On Guru Purab, they would just put out some diyas. On Diwali, they would light up the house, make a rangoli also, right?
mhm.
Holy something, but there is no prayer, nothing. My grandparents still, and it's not like I'm going to bother them. Why are you doing this, Granny? Why are you doing this? I'm not going to do that.
Of course
Let them
not.
be. Yeah, like my granny, my maternal grandmother has a specific time of doing her around 7 to 8, and she does it. She wants to be left alone. I leave her alone. That's it.
Fair enough. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit
Sure.
and talk about Pahalgam and what has happened.
Yes, of course.
And this has been, I have become so saturated with the news now that it's hard for me to talk about. It's hard for me to even watch new things about it. There are lots of theories, there are lots of finger pointing against the state government, against the chief minister, against the army and the military and the defense minister and the prime minister as well. Where do you think things went wrong, or is this just one of those things that happened senselessly and was an organized terrorist effort? But do you think there were any feelings on our part as well?
So, not being a defense expert, I am simply voicing my opinion as a citizen of India, like every
Yeah.
other citizen can. But since I'm doing it in front of camera, I have to be more careful. No, I am just having a conversation. So I'll
Yeah.
be as unfiltered as possible. It is a work of religion. I would say it out loud. It is Islamic extremism. And it is not something new that this country has faced. We have been facing it since Islamic extremism was born in the 60s, 70s as a modern militia movement, because
Yeah.
Islam being extreme has always been there. But to militarize that movement after the Iranian Revolution, right? When all the Mujahideens were born, when Soviets invaded Afghanistan and Americans funded the Mujahideen, and taking inspiration from that, there were militarized Islamists everywhere, right? Same case with Kashmir. Pakistan is very much, in fact, it is a great factor in contributing to this divide. You are neighbors, Indians are neighbors with Pakistanis who are Muslims. What could go wrong, right? What could go wrong? Obviously,
Absolutely.
it comes from there. And I would tell you some things like there are Doordarshan channels which are telecasted in which share pro-India content even today.
Hmm.
That is only to curb the Pakistani broadcast because their receivers, I don't think they're using antennas still, if antennas are still a thing. But I
Yeah.
was told it's around 7, 8 years back by an officer, right? वहां से लोग, we try to make sure that we are doing everything to de-radicalize them. I'll be honest, we are doing everything to de-radicalize them. Even still, if their faith triumphs over all the logic, all the incentives, and we have to blame religion at some point. We have to blame them. Them as
Yeah.
an Islamic extremists, we have to blame them. There are separate rules for Jammu and Kashmir even before the abrogation of 370. There are still some privileges they enjoy. There is school funding for them, education. The army funds their schools. Their army recruits former militants to make sure that yes, it's not about punishment and death sentence. You have a chance to reform yourself. You can join the fighting side. You can fight these radicals because what will radicals do? If somebody joins the Indian army, they will take away their family. That is what they have done plenty of
Yeah.
times. I read a report about some soldier from the territorial army. Territorial army is like the reserve army. Like we have National Guard in US, then there is TA in India. So this
Mhm.
guy was kidnapped, and maybe I think 20, 30 days later, his body was found, and his father was just obviously furious, sad, and
Yeah.
very upset over the whole thing that
Mhm.
this happened to his boy who just wanted to serve his nation. So yes,
Yeah.
there are a lot of things which happen over there, and we do make sure that they don't happen. We try to de-radicalize them on a very early level. We try to give them freebies and everything. But still, if they feel that Kashmir as an identity, as an ethnic identity, should be a purely Muslim identity, that is a problem I will not deny, and I will speak out against it very bluntly. And that is one part. The primary issue for this attack and many other attacks which have happened in the past few years. There was Riyasi, there is Pahalgam right now, there was Riyasi, and then Khancourt and all that. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was Pulwama at one point. Yes.
Pulwama, everything. It is always because of religion. I'm a kafir. I and a Hindu who might get onto each other's throats that you are a Hindutva fascist. He'll call me a communist, even though I'm very capitalistic. I believe in private property. I like to own things.
And an anti-national.
Yeah, anti-national, whatever their little fantasies, tingles there. For a Muslim extremist, there is no difference. For him, I am a kafir. For him, even a Hindutva fanatic is a kafir.
Yeah.
So the Islamist or a jihadi doesn't discriminate. For him, we
Yeah.
are all equally worthless enemies, equally inhuman, who need to be curbed, who need to be killed. Yes, religion has everything to do with this. And I will point out with a very different example of a different set of extremists who have nothing to do with this attack. I will talk about Gau Rakshaks, I will talk about mob lynchings, talk about people harassing interfaith couples, harassing people who just eat non-veg. And this harassment is not just verbal and social policing. It is violent, it is vengeful, it is in mobs, it is organized. If I can openly say that, that is Hindu extremism. Right?
Yeah.
Why do I need to censor myself in the case of Islamic extremism? Let's first take Hindu extremism and Islamic extremism on the same scale. Right now, we're not talking about terrorism, which is, I would say, the final form of extremism. Let's
Mhm.
just simply talk about extremism first. Street level,
Yeah.
local, right? We have mobs wearing colors and harassing people, beating people, lynching people, killing people, raping people. That happens both on the Islamic side and the Hindutva side. That could even happen in third world African countries where Christian mobs are there. Because if European and Western white Christian nations can move forward. That is something African Christian nations have failed to do on a similar scale. They're still homophobic. They would still lynch homosexuals, right? They would still lynch you for blasphemy. They will come out and say, why are you running? Okay. So they'll still do that to you. They will still grab you. So extremism depends on a lot of factors, economic factors, societal factors, right? Christianity is still the same in Europe and Americas, North Americas particularly. What does it
Yeah.
make deranged in in Africa, right? They both follow the same Bible. They go to a similar church, but in Africa they still have blasphemy laws. They still have laws to persecute dissidents. Christianity for you. Same with Islam. It is different in Turkey. It is different in Middle East. It is different. It is different in Saudi versus how it is in Dubai, I would say. Dubai is pretty liberal about certain things. They have opened their borders
They
way
have
back.
had to be liberal.
Yeah. Let's talk about extremism. So if mob lynching, gau hatya, gau raksha ke naam pe hatya and all that, it can have a religious label to it. Why not Islamic extremists? Taking similar examples, punishing women who leave the house without a burqa, raping them because they left the house without a burqa. They deserve it. Right? How many times for a cartoon of Muhammad, how many times studios have been burned down? The artist has been threatened, even killed. Now, talking about refugee crisis in Europe, now there is a demographic change. They are not terrorists, yes, they are extremists on a street level. They are asking for Sharia, right? They are calling certain things un-Islamic. The European values which welcomed them in the first place, right? Secularist values, modernist values. Now they
Exactly.
go there, they say drinking is bad. Europe drinks like a fucking bucket. They like football, they like to drink. They say, yeah,
Absolutely.
drinking is bad. It is un-Islamic. Music is bad. It is un-Islamic. Art, dance, everything is un-Islamic. We want Sharia. Isn't that Islamic extremism? Right.
Absolutely.
Now, we have compared two very similar things, even though here extremism definitely is very dangerous on one particular side. But yes, Hindu extremist, Islamic extremist. Now let's take it a notch further. Let's talk about terrorism. Now, if terrorism is also done in the same sense with a affinity towards religion, why is it hard for liberals to say that it is Islamic extremism, or more precisely, Islamic terrorism? How does having this opinion stereotype anybody? If I could say Hindu extremism, did I ditch out any Hindu? Like all Hindus, an average Hindu? No, it is very understandable, right? Same sentiment and the same clause and the same rationality should be followed with Islamic extremists, right? What this dishonesty does is create a vacuum, which this vacuum wala part we've already discussed a few minutes ago, stages of the video, right? This will create a vacuum. Ultimately, Hindutva will come, and I'm not saying it is justified. I'm not justifying Hindutva at all. I detest them. I'm disgusted by them. I'm anti-Hindutva as of now, openly. But
Yeah.
if we don't have such conversations, what do you think? Who do you think is going to have them? And it has everything to do with religion. Everything. It has always had everything to do with religion, and still is. 1990, the Exodus, it was so disheartening to see people of their own country become refugees in their own country, right?
Yeah.
Their own land, their own everything has been taken away from them, right? Secondly, let's come to the government failure. Now, this government is incompetent as fuck and hide their incompetency with gimmicks. Now, I would definitely give them credit that earlier, when certain things like these would happen, which happened on a daily basis, even during Congress rule, they would go for a diplomatic solution. They would condemn, but now we react, and reaction is a good thing because ultimately there is a code of public opinion. And the public, if they, by perception, they feel that we are not doing anything, the government will definitely capitalize on these gimmicks, right? But the extent to which they capitalize on these gimmicks, like going to election rallies, Modi went to Bihar here and he's still talking about those ki hum avenge karenge, ye karenge. It is so bloody insensitive. So fucking insensitive. He's just milking this tragedy for politics. Right.
Absolutely. He
And I'm
takes
sure
every opportunity to do that.
every opportunity to do that. Every opportunity, right? There was Lieutenant General D.S. Huda,
Mhm.
who saw certain operations in late 2010s. And he said that political resonance is not good if with these acts of the armed forces. It's not good. And I'm not exactly able to recall his exact words, but he said something on the very similar lines. And he said it after we witnessed how these gimmicks are done to spread a narrative. Now, he also acknowledged that, yes, ultimately government did not have any choice but to publish these acts because even there was a morale, the morale thoda down ho gaya tha फौजियों का भी, that what are exactly are we doing? What is our government doing? There was a moral question raised by even some of the servicemen that what are we doing every time this happens to us? What do we do? Why are our hands always tied? So yes, I would say that publicizing what we did in Uri and Balakot airstrikes, it does definitely add some confidence in the public. Internationally also, it sends a message that we do not just condemn, we retaliate, and we should. Then the same Lieutenant General D. Sudai did clarify that military operations have been happening even before. Right now, they are happening on a scale and it's fine. But there is a political resonance is not good.
How do you think we should retaliate?
See, we are doing everything, man. Like I said, there are de-radicalization methods in Kashmir, which are being implemented by the army intelligence. And the best think tanks, they are doing it.
And there's been a lot of this conversation about the reverse treaty, and now the treaty has been reversed, and that Pakistan will no longer get water from us. How are we supposed to block those rivers and redirect them? It makes no sense to me.
No, the fact that we have now started focusing way more on the flow of a water body it goes in the sense of direction that now there are two narratives. One is saying religious is all responsible. The other is saying government is responsible. Now, there is a middle ground. Like I said, there is no middle ground, but the middle ground we are trying to create is that yes, government is responsible, but now you cannot just focus on the fact that how will the water be redirected. That cannot hold too much weight in this conversation. That is something being pumped and repeated by the left side. कि भाई पानी का क्या करेंगे भाई पानी का क्या तुम पहले जिहादियों का क्या करोगे भाई पानी देख लेंगे हम नहा लेंगे पानी में. There is a water shortage in so many places in India also. We redirect it there, but now that is not the biggest of our concerns. Same with the right. Jihadi. I'll tell you another, this government's fault is that it has failed to unite this country. It has totally failed to unite this country. All it can unite is a bunch of their own vote bank. That is all.
Absolutely.
Right. And I believe there was not this much prejudice during Congress time because there would be silent appeasing for the Muslims, but at least majority would stand together against terrorism. Right now, people are more into harassing people and all that. Like, harass कर रहे हैं, वही अपना same कचरा फैला रहे हैं.
Yeah, so absolutely.
How backwards we have gone as a country.
Yeah, right now
we are playing forward, 2 step backs.
Exactly. We are playing into the hands of what the terrorists want, which is to divide the country. They had this attack because they knew that we would react in this way that all of a sudden we will start looking at all Muslims as terrorists. And they want us to divide this country. A divided country is a weak one. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what most Indians are starting to do.
So it just tells you now that most Indians are not critical thinkers. Again, another blunt thing, I would like to say that it's okay to be racist against Indians, right? Because whatever racial stereotypes we've developed on the internet, it is not because of people like me, not because of people like you. So why will I feel offended? Indians are dirty. Yes, I say Indians are dirty. I am tired of dirty Indians because I am not the one contributing to that stereotype. So I will not feel offended by that stereotype. Indians are this, Indians are that. Yes, they are. And I'm tired of such Indians because I am not offended by such stereotype. I did not contribute to it. And I'm pretty clear in my stance.
Yeah.
We are repulsed by people who act like this, who are the majority of Indians. We are disgusted. We are even shocked to see such a display of inhumane behavior.
Yeah.
Is it because of Indians like me, Indians like you, or the average Indian with common sense, which is very rare? Is it because of them? They do. It's always the culprits who feel offended. Always.
Yeah.
Always. I'm like, yeah, I've just went out of this country twice. I'm getting married this year. I'll probably go again.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll come to that part as well because I've had a sour taste regarding Special Marriage Act and Hindu Act. Or maybe some, if that is required, not today. But I'll also go out of this country once again and like, yaar, so that is definitely there. And I'm not like not all Indians, but definitely an Indian, man. Always doing this. So same way, if we say to extremists, it's definitely the extremists getting triggered. Silent extremists, the one who come to their keyboards and support rioters and terrorists. They do not have the guts to do it themselves. This is the best thing I say to most people. कि जब कोई दंगा होता है, when there is a violent incident, somebody says, "No, glad it happened." Okay, where are your fucking balls? Go out and do it yourself. Why are you sitting here, man? Why are you wasting your time? But religion is in fucking danger. You fucking incompetent buffoon. Don't you have a pair of balls? Right? Namar, वहां से कोई response नहीं आता. देगा. When will I see your video climbing a religious place, putting your flag? When will I see it? I want to see it. I
Yeah,
want to see.
enough people doing
Why
that shit though.
Yeah, there are 10 people doing it, but there are 1,000 supporting it. And
Exactly.
those 1,000 people don't have the balls to do it. They just want someone else to protect their religion.
Yeah, they came out what? It was yesterday that I saw that there were a group of people who went up to the top of a church and tied a flag on top of it or on top of the cross.
If your religion was so great, your 4,000-year-old religion was so great, why would people convert for 4 kg rice? Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah. And there are lots of people who have converted because of casteism as well.
Mostly
they've converted
casteism,
to
yes.
Islam, they've converted to Christianity, they've converted to Sikhism, and yet the casteism still remains in all of those.
All of them.
There's this amazing movie I watched called Untouchable.
Okay.
Which actually doesn't have a narrator. The entire, I think it's on YouTube for free, to watch for free. And I would recommend everybody to go watch that. It's absolutely phenomenally disgusting how casteism is still so prevalent across the country and has been for a very long period of time, and nobody talks about it. But that's a completely different conversation to be had.
All of that just definitely ties into a lot of things that this country has been forced to build in a very convoluted way. So yeah, the first point has been made. It is a religious issue. Second point is that we need to question our government time and time again. If remember the time when 26/11 happened, how can this bloody happen under your fucking nose every time? Right now, where is the accountability?
Absolutely.
Where is the accountability right now? Just some bots who would try to silence you by shouting Jai Shri Ram. That is all there is. 10 Jai Shri Ram comments and suddenly you don't want to talk to them. Fuck all of you. I'm questioning your bloody supreme leader, yeah. Okay, so this has to be done. And thirdly, there is a very big confusion.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Have you seen their content online? The content dekha hai. It's here is Indian Army with their achievements, a picture or a video of them. Bagal mein there is our Ramesh with their orange gamcha harassing people, and they think both are the same. They are protecting India, they are protecting Dharma. Protecting Dharma and protecting India are not the same, my friend.
Absolutely not.
खुद को फौजियों के साथ कंपेयर कर रहे हो, दैट इज अ बिग मिसकंसेप्शन. नो मैटर हाउ मेनी रील्स यू मेक, कितनी भी रील्स बना लो भाई, तुम बराबर नहीं हो. And okay, let's say during the podcast culture and during the last 4, 5, 10 years, we have seen many veterans coming out and talking about themselves, talking about their experience in the army. It is great. It is much more unfiltered than your typical TV interview on camera. Off camera, since I come from this background, I have a way more different equation and I can ask way more silly but blunt and even stupid questions. And off camera conversations also matter. I won't say any names, I don't have to. But I mentioned these jokers to some of the people who are serving or people who have served. Haste hain pe thukte hain, they spit on such people. For them, their duty is the most important. Ultimately, they are the ones who have to clean this mess.
Yeah.
Do these guys on the streets think that they're going to protect us from jihadis? These guys with their sticks are going to protect us from jihadis? Like we said earlier, South India में अलग गुंडे हैं, communist गुंडे हैं, Dravidian गुंडे हैं, West Bengal में Islamist गुंडे हैं, Mamata Banerjee के under. States में you are saffron gundas, that's all you are. I have the same disgust towards you like the rest of the guys I mentioned. I face the same threat from you that the rest of the guys mentioned. You are not our protectors. तुम कोई रक्षा नहीं करने वाले मेरी. Ultimately, रक्षा वही करेगा जो यूनिफॉर्म में है, be it khaki, white, blue or green.
Absolutely.
Right? And men and women who actually lay down their lives, like they also have their biases. They also have ये भी लोग वोट देते हैं. Fauji's also give vote. Police people also give vote. They also abuse a politician. Okay, but after their duty is done, they are not looking at every person with a lens of prejudice when they come back, assimilate with the rest of the society. It's very, I would say, wrong on their part to think that they are anything more than a bunch of goons. Delusions of grandeur, that is what they're suffering from.
Absolutely.
religion is the most toxic thing on earth, right? And the different levels of this toxicity needs to be called out. We can easily say which is better, which is worse. We cannot also let people use one religion's extremism to hide their own, even if that religion in question is the most dangerous one. We cannot
Yeah.
let a lesser evil religion hide it, because they'll just ultimately become like them to some extent, not exactly like them, but you discount version,
Yeah.
Alibaba, not Amazon version, Alibaba version. Then we were also talking about how people believe in miracles. Even now we have cameras, so people still tend to believe in things. So imagine 2000 years ago, if people could believe in a person walking on water simply by rumors, right?
Mm.
Right now people can believe in miracles even though they have video evidence against it. So you
Yes.
blame people who were 2000 years ago, medieval, ancient, classical people who tend to
Mm.
believe. Religion strives on ignorance even despite there is plenty of evidence against it. And a
Absolutely.
mind as old as that, which has survived 2000 years, because Sam Harris was giving an example of Jesus versus this. And I was trying to equate it with Nanak and Muhammad and all the other religious figures who have come up. Even Ambedkar is worshipped, thank God, I would say, that it's not been, I would say, mythicized.
Absolutely. Thank goodness for that. I say
Yeah,
thank goodness as much as
thank
I possibly
goodness.
can.
Thank God I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Right? And
Thank God
lastly,
we're both atheists.
even if you are an atheist, you can definitely be radicalized in the right wing ideology. You will feel that, yes, the majority is protecting me. That is the discussion I think we left off somewhere in the middle. But
Yeah.
yes, it can happen. It has happened to me. And I used to post so many opinions and used to enjoy the likes I get from the right wing audience in my feed. This one particular post even reached Paresh Rawal, the BJP MP.
Wow.
And I was so excited. Oh, look, Paresh Rawal tweeted my screenshot about Ram Mandir. Oi, Babu Bhaiya from.
What did you tweet?
I don't know if I can post it here or I can share my screen. Let's say in the post production, I will add it
Or just tell me
somewhere.
generally.
Okay. So it was about, see, I definitely supported the Ram Mandir. Even after my क्या कहते हैं, de-radicalization from BJP, I still support
Mm.
it. Not because I do not support the way it was, all the steps which were taken. Of course, I cannot support the fact that masjid was demolished. Not because it was demolished, but it was demolished after riots. It could have been done by a simple, I would say, court order that, yeah, this needs to be demolished. But I think riots would have been they still would have happened in any case.
Yeah.
Do not align with the steps which came all the way ultimately to laying the first foundation stone. I believe it was just a mosque for a tyrannical ruler. And if people want to have a religious place as an architectural or a civilizational token, they're allowed, they should have it. Right. Now, what I posted was that constantly asking for Ram Mandir, for a hospital or a school in the place where Ram Mandir can be built is very stupid, right? Because it was
Mm.
not built by taxpayer money. And then saying things like that that we are Nazis and all that. No, we are not. Jews laugh at you by such a strike comparison. Basically, I was trying to downplay the Hindutva extremists and their role in violence and all that. Right?
I see.
So that was my tweet. And I believe that, speaking of taxes, religion should definitely be taxed. And then again, I used the classic right-wing whataboutery because I was a right-winger at that point. I used the, what about other religions? When will they pay taxes? That might be some misinformation on my part, but when will
Mm.
the minorities pay taxes? I believe all should pay taxes. Hindutva right-wingers believe that no, even Hindus shouldn't pay taxes. I, as a fond atheist, believe that every religious place should pay taxes. All.
Absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
enjoy the most privileges. They enjoy the most, I would say. They enjoy everything. Yeah.
Wow. And have you ever put up a redo of that tweet and just said that, yeah, maybe
Oh,
I was
I
wrong?
don't think I'll let it occupy a major part of my life. It was different time, different angst, and all that.
Yeah.
So
Let
yeah,
it be there.
yeah, let
Anyway,
it be.
thanks so much for joining me, man. We've been planning this for a while, but it's amazing that you're also a part of the movement. If you come to Delhi, we got to hang out. That'll be
For
amazing.
sure, for sure, for sure.
And thanks so much for joining me on Rationable. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And it was a privilege to have you here as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, guys, that was a Rationable interview with the Indic Atheist. If you liked it, give us a like. Do subscribe to the channel if you would want more content like this. And just as a little bit of a reminder, I do have a Patreon at Rationable. So give us a little bit of a follow there and help support this channel if you can. Until next time, be rationable.